So, I was probably a month over 18 when I got pregnant. My boyfriend was very controlling and always yelled and screamed. And after we got married, it got even worse. I stayed with him for 8 years, and I fell in love with my current husband, Arthur, during that time. I know we were wrong to have an affair, and I deserve judgment for that. I mean, it cost me my daughter, Sophia, now 21. I should have been stronger and just left my ex, because I doubt he even needed to brainwash her to make her hate me. I tried to be there and fight for shared custody, but Sophia wanted nothing to do with me. After my ex got remarried, Sophia got a great stepmother who asked to adopt her when she turned 15 legally. I didn't want it to happen and wanted to fight it, but if me being her mom hurt her so much and she wanted a new one, I let it go because it was my fault, and I'd already lost her long ago. After she legally stopped being my daughter, I reconnected with Arthur. We got married and had a daughter, and now I'm pregnant with our boy. I'd still see Sophia since she goes to my mom's house a lot, because that was still her grandma, even if I'm not her mom. My mom, however, died 2 weeks ago, and it's caused a lot of chaos in everybody's lives. Now we have that weird tradition where the eldest daughter gets a collection of special necklaces. I was the eldest, so I got my mom special necklaces and wore one to her funeral just like she did to her mom's funeral. At the funeral, when Sophia saw me, she shook my hand like I was a stranger and just said, "Sorry for your loss, Mrs. Ray." Then after the funeral, she pulled me aside and asked if she would be allowed to take some of the necklaces early because she'd like to wear them to the wake. I just told her no, that the necklaces are mine, and after me, they'd belong to my daughter because she's the eldest in the family. She just said okay and didn't talk to me at the wake, except to say thanks for when I gave her my mother's much more valuable rings. My brother told me I should have let her have some of the necklaces, and I was an idiot not to. The thing is, my mother was the last thing tying Sophia to me, so I don't see how I'm the idiot for what I did. Not the idiot. Sophia may be your daughter by blood, but she's no longer your daughter in any other sense of the word. Because she no longer wants to be your daughter, your heirlooms should go to children who will view you as their mother. If your brother wants to give Sophia some of his things, let him. He doesn't get to dictate to you, and he's an idiot for trying. Tell him where to stuff it. Wow, you are the idiot. What a dumpster fire of a family. Who leaves their child with someone they know to be an abuser? Like, hey, I got out, but screw my kid. I'm mind-blowing by all saying that OP's not the idiot. Everyone is acting like since a teen has to be adopted, then OP is off the hook. Clearly, OP never had a true connection with her firstborn child and has no emotional attachment whatsoever. It's not really that complicated, I think. The most important part of the story is OP had a daughter. The daughter was adopted by someone else, doesn't see OP as a mother, calls her Mrs. Ray like she's a stranger, and then asks for family jewelry? LOL, no, not the idiot for refusing. But OP's daughter was a child, and deep down she probably wanted OP to fight for her. OP, your daughter probably took your affair as a sign that you didn't love your family, and she wanted you to fight for her. My heart breaks for her, and I hope you both can find your way to each other. Oh wow, everyone totally missed this one. It sounds like the tradition is to receive the necklaces once the matriarch dies. So even if she still was considered your daughter, she wouldn't get them until you died, yes? She's kind of saying, "Birth mom, you're already dead to me, give me a necklace." You are the idiot. You could try acting like a mother now, since you didn't care for all of Sophia's childhood. She's still your daughter. You were the one that made the bad choices, and it's entirely on you how this relationship has gotten messed up. Don't act like a mother and pretend she's not your daughter. It would absolutely not hurt for you to give her a necklace, and to say she won't get them because she isn't the oldest daughter when she is BS. I have had nose and sinus issues my entire life. I could never breathe out my nose to the point where not only my smell and taste were almost non-existent, but I could only mouth breathe. I also had snot 24/7. Sometimes it's like a leaky tap where it would not stop. I got made fun of a lot at school, and it used to make my teachers angry. I was so self-conscious and didn't have any friends. My parents always said there was no cure or anything when they took me to the doctor. At the beginning of this year, I moved for a job. I got here a few weeks before my start date to get set up. This is where it started. Within days of moving here, I could breathe out of my nose. No more snot, and I could smell and taste. It freaked me out at first because this had never been possible in my life. I'm not a mouth breather anymore, and my sleep is not disturbed now. Besides the pay, one of the good things about my job is that it comes with insurance. I got a checkup at the dentist, the eye doctor, and the doctor for the first time since I was 12. I had these when I was a kid, but when I was about 12, my dad got a new job, but the insurance was not good. We only went to the doctor or dentist for major things like a broken bone. I was still on my dad's insurance before I got my job. My new doctor asked for my medical records and if I had them. My first doctor was gone, but the building is still there, and they had mine from a long time ago. There wasn't much from the second. This is where I found out my parents lied to me. In my old records, it says that the dry air hurts my sinuses a bunch of times. The doctor says a less dry climate would relieve them, and besides that, there's medication, and a humidifier would help. It says so over and over. They never told the second doctor this information either. I asked my parents about it. They were angry I got the medical records because they said it was private. My mom said they didn't try medication because it was too much of a hassle to remember to give me the pills. My dad said moving was out of the question since it would remove my sister from her friends, and a humidifier was too much work for mom. I'm not so self-centered. I think they should have moved. But if I had this info when I was older, I could have been responsible for my own medication, and I would have moved from Nevada when I was 18 if I knew it would help. My parents must have told my sister everything because she blew up my phone with calls and messages saying I shouldn't have snooped in the medical records, and mom and dad were right to tell me there was no cure because the medication and other stuff was too much to put on their plate. Am I the idiot for being furious about this? If I knew, I could take steps to fix this when I was old enough. I'm also perturbed they think me not able to breathe properly was no big deal. Not the idiot. Yes, those records were private, but they weren't private from you. Those are your records. Your parents were being very neglectful and awful. I'm so glad you can live your new life in a place that's healthy for you. Right? How do you snoop on your own medical records? Do these people think OP only became a legitimate, independent person at 18? That anything before that doesn't count because they belong to their parents? OP's parents couldn't be bothered to refill a humidifier? A daily chore being too much to ask for led to actual years of discomfort and shame. Someone in that family liked watching the suffering, and now they want OP to say thank you for the chance to be entertained. Geez. I actually think the parents are just passing the buck on to the sister. They're using her as a reason not to move. I bet they really didn't give a crap about uprooting the sister. If there was a good reason why one of them wanted to move, they would have. I think this was all about them, and they didn't want to move. The fact that they couldn't even be bothered to buy a humidifier is pathetic. I'm surprised they parented them at all. They didn't want to put much effort in at all. I feel so bad for OP. I can't imagine how hard that was on him. I, female 32, and my fiance, male 34, Aaron, are getting married soon. We got done with the wedding planning, although my future mother-in-law basically disagreed with every arrangement we had. The whole issue came up recently. Aaron and I were discussing the wedding photos, and the facial scar that I had in my early 20s came up. Aaron suggested that we have this area of my face, where my scar is located, photoshopped. I laughed, thinking he was joking, but he said it was for real. I was taken aback, but he explained that this is what photoshopping is for, and that these are wedding photos that last for years, and he'd rather them be flawless. I looked at him and asked if he saw my face as a flaw. He immediately apologized and said, absolutely not, and it's just that all couples point out what should and should not be photoshopped to get the best wedding photos. He then admitted it was his mom's suggestion, and he saw that she had a point this time. I refused and we began fighting. Aaron said that I was a huge overreactor and that it's not about the scar itself, but the overall look of the photos, and I was being too sensitive for no reason. I had an argument with my future mother-in-law after she nicely tried to talk me into considering it. Most of the women in the family agreed with her and Aaron and said this is what photoshopping is for, and lots of people do it because they're not happy with a specific area in their appearance. I told them I'm different because I'm not bothered by my appearance, nor do I want to change it for any reason or occasion for that matter. They went on to say I need therapy for me to cope with my past trauma, but I don't think my refusal has anything to do with it. Aaron is visibly upset with my response. He said he loves me no matter what, and it was ridiculous to be so hung up on this nonsense and hold it against him and his family, who wants what's best for me. I don't know if this is just my past insecurities popping up, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting and getting offended for no reason. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. I have massive scars in various places on my body, and many of them are openly visible in my wedding photos. One of my in-laws made the same awful suggestion about Photoshop, and my husband shut her down by pointing out we wanted the photos to be of us, not some perfect, unrealistic image of us. I'm so sorry that your fiancé and his family are shallow enough to think that photos of you as you aren't good enough. This is what I don't understand. Why would he want pictures that aren't you? I could see if this was temporary, like a recent incident that would be resolved in a week, but wanting to change who you are for photos? OP, have Aaron's idiot face photoshopped out of your photos and see if he likes how you fix the flaws. Agreed. Suggest his face gets photoshopped with Ryan Reynolds' face. Tell him you love him no matter what, but it's your wedding photos and you want him to look flawless. Both Aaron and his mom are the idiots here. I'm actually surprised you want to get married into a family that basically doesn't like how you look and want to change you through Photoshop, and even saying you need to go to therapy? Holy moly, they sound like terrible people that want to control and change you into what they think is perfect. My older sister, 31, and I, 22 female, have been close since childhood, until now. So my sister's been engaged to this Korean immigrant guy, 25 male, for 2 years. However, they hadn't really found time to plan the wedding because my sister was always away at her job. Everything seems innocent so far until I tell you that he wasn't really interested in her. He didn't really have much money, and my sister's pretty wealthy. So pretty much he only married her for the money. Once while my sister was at work, the fiancé stayed over at my parents' house, and he said hello to me. We chatted before he admitted to me he didn't like my sister. Me being a stupid 21-year-old, I agreed to keep it a secret. The next night, things were moving so fast that we ended up sleeping together and making out in bed. That was the first night that he cheated. So fast forward to yesterday, when my sister was organizing the wedding. At first, it didn't concern me that my sister was marrying a cheater. She's strong and independent, so I thought she would have brushed it off. But again, things took a turn after the ceremony, when my sister and now brother-in-law started to dance. While I was going to grab a slice of cake, I noticed them dancing tightly, but when my sister wasn't looking, brother-in-law gave me a mischievous wink. My heart started to race, and my heart felt horrible for my sister. I didn't want to do this, but I couldn't live knowing my sister was staying with him. So when brother-in-law went for a drink, I pulled her over to a corner and told her everything. My sister was nonchalant at first, but then she ran off crying to my parents. My parents were equally mad at me and my brother-in-law, and we were kicked out of the wedding. I don't know what to do anymore. Am I the idiot? You're kidding, right? You are the idiot for not telling her sooner what he thought about her, for sleeping with her fiancé in the first place, for not saying anything before the wedding. Jesus, how can you call yourself a sister? Maybe by blood, never with your soul. Yep, you are the idiot. First, for sleeping with the guy. Second, for letting it go to the wedding before you said anything. It was always her business. She always needed to know. It's been a year, and now her entire world has changed. right when she thought she was good. I feel sorry for her. It's going to be a long time before she trusts anyone deeply again. If I was in your family, I'd go no contact with you. I wouldn't want you anywhere near me or anything I loved. You might try to sleep with it. The only positive I can see in this situation is that you might get a choice about which circle of hell you'll end up in. Your poor sister. My 22 male, girlfriend 22, loves to sleep. So if she isn't doing something important, she sleeps. She will nap throughout the day, and it's literally impossible to wake her up. She doesn't wake up from an alarm clock and uses me instead. I wouldn't mind, but she literally makes it such a hassle to even get her out of bed. I have to first wake her up from her initial sleep, come back a bit later and shake her again, then finally pick her up and make her stand before she finally gets up. This has been going on for some time now, and she's never had a real reason to urgently get up. I've never mentioned having an issue with this, besides getting a bit frustrated sometimes. A couple of days ago, she had to get up for her first work day in a corporate office the following day. She made me promise that I'd get her up on time. I said I'd try, and she said I needed to promise her. So I told her I'd try again, and she kept stressing how important it was for her to get up. The next morning rolls around and I'm trying to nudge her awake. Doesn't work. I sit her up and she falls back down. I even stood her up out of bed, and when I came back to our room, she was lying in bed again. I shook her one final time, and she said something in gibberish that made zero sense. I gave up and just watched as the time went by. She came down an hour after she told me to wake her up, and she was running around the house trying to get ready. So she ended up being late, and when she came home, she was mad at me. LMAO, I was in shock. I told her I couldn't believe she was blaming me. She told me that I made her a promise, and I told her that I'd try. I tried. And even after explaining everything, how I tried to wake her up, she said it was my fault. We got into an argument, and she said she couldn't really rely on me, and if I had a problem with this system, then I should have said something. Okay, who the heck wants to be someone's human alarm clock that doesn't even work half the time? She's a full-grown adult, and it shouldn't be my responsibility always to wake her up. She told me if I was an adult, I would have brought up this issue with her before. Nah, I still don't see how this is my fault at all. Regardless of if I had an issue with this or not, I did what she asked me to do, and it didn't work. No matter how I explain this to her, she refuses to see it my way and just says, I made you promise. Am I the idiot? I really don't think I am. Not the idiot. It's her job, her life, and ultimately her responsibility to make sure she wakes up on time, because that's what being an adult requires. So, what's her plan for if you're out of town? Demand someone else come over and play the alarm clock? Why hasn't she taken the initiative to see a doctor if normal measures aren't working? Honestly, if she's that incapable of waking up when she needs to, this is a medical issue, and she needs to be taking responsibility for that by seeking help, not offloading all the labor of dealing with her condition onto you. She made you promise, so she knows it's a huge problem already. She's an adult. She should have figured out a plan B for herself if this was so important to her. She's going to work, not you. She doesn't want to take accountability for her actions and is playing the victim game. Again, she would be shifting the blame because it's much easier to blame you than actually to take responsibility because, 1, this is her pattern. I say this because it's weird how logic isn't so simple for her to grasp. Or 2, she put that responsibility on you, so she wants you to take it. LOL, I'm sorry. Does she want you to put on a business suit too and clock in for her? Jeez.